Hey everybody, it's Allie and welcome to our Y&R chat for Sunday, August 17th, 2014. Devon and Hillary are trying so hard to figure out how on earth they're gonna tell Neil that they want to be together, that the marriage was a mistake, and they don't know how they're gonna tell him. I mean, he's going to be shocked. Wouldn't you say? Do you guys think Neil's gonna be shocked? He's gonna be so shocked maybe he'll go blind. That's how shocked. I mean, indeed, this is the summer shocker that Y&R has just given us. It's the shockingest shocker of all shockers that we've ever experienced on Y&R, and I think Neil is gonna be shocked. Oh boy. So Devon and Hillary are trying to get a hold of Neil. They've mustered up the courage to tell him the truth about their relationship, and now I think they just want to get it over with. They're calling on his phone, not getting any answer, and Hillary is sort of starting to get worried. Devon is almost annoyingly calm through all of this. He's more methodical, like he's focused on the goal, which is getting the woman that he wants, and I don't sense a whole lot of emotion from him. But Hillary is starting to get worried about Neil. I think she's maybe even starting to second guess herself at this point. She goes to the club and she finds Kane, and Kane knows exactly where Neil is. He's at that old house trying to give Hillary her dream home, and Kane doesn't want to spoil the surprise by telling Hillary where he is, but she's very insistent. Where is my husband? Oh, he's your husband when you need to know something. He's not as much your husband when you're having an affair. So Kane takes her out to the house, and they both find Neil passed out on the floor with sparks flying all around him. I really thought that the house was gonna burn down. I was worried about Neil being passed out. He got shocked, real shocked. He was shocked, definitely. But I was worried that all of those sparks all over the place were gonna jump onto one of the rugs and then catch the whole place on fire, and he'd go up in flames. That was what I was more worried about. But they find him, he's passed out there, and they call the ambulance. I mean, it's just Hillary and Kane there, worried sick. Neil gets rushed to the hospital, and it's not looking good. Of course, it's very dire, and nobody knows if he's gonna survive or not. Lily shows up, Devon shows up, so the entire family is there. They're worried. Kane has to reveal why he was at that house in the first place, which is that Neil was trying to give a surprise home to Hillary, her dream house. And Hillary is shocked to hear this information for the first time. Lily hears it, and she immediately jumps on Hillary, saying, "See, I knew it. This is all your fault. What's happening to my father right now is all your fault." And I don't know how Lily made that leap. Like, how is a faulty electrical system in a house that Hillary knew nothing about all Hillary's fault? It was just, I guess, kind of clear that Lily was looking for an excuse, or she was looking for a place to put the blame. She even accused Hillary of arranging it. That's very indicative of Lily's opinion of Hillary. There was this brief moment where I don't know if it was rational or not, but she thought, I bet Hillary arranged this for my dad to get hurt. So it was, I think, a lot of misplaced frustration on Lily's end. I mean, everybody is frustrated. I know I keep saying this, but I actually do enjoy Lily right now. I think that Lily has always been so demure and so nice and polite, and I think Lily needed an enemy on the show. So I've just just enjoyed it. The way she really lashed out at Hillary, although it wasn't right, it was entertaining to watch. I can see why Lily feels so threatened by Hillary, and that is, at the end of the day, what it is. She feels threatened by her because Hillary is a woman who has found a way to seep into every aspect of her life. It wasn't enough that Hillary took those photos of her in bed with Kane. I mean, that would be enough right there. End of story. Some woman arranges photos of herself in bed with your husband, you're done with her. But then to go on and have her marry your father and to witness on the sidelines that there is some kind of bond between Devon and her, and Lily doesn't know exactly what it was. And in fact, when they learned the news about Neil, Devon was just getting ready to tell Lily. That was part of the arrangement between Hillary and Devon. Hillary's like, look, I'll deal with Neil, you gotta tell Lily. That one I'm not gonna deal with. But I can understand why Lily is feeling the way she does about Hillary. I guess I kind of understand why most everybody feels the way they do in this situation. So the situation sort of becomes less and less dire as Neil wakes up. The doctors reveal he's awake, and everybody in the family wants to see him, but Neil only wants to see Hillary. He's only asking for Hillary, which I thought was interesting, and again sort of adds to Lily's argument. Lily's always been number one in her father's life, and now here something traumatic has happened to him, and who is he calling for? Not his favorite precious daughter with his precious beloved wife, not this child that he raised with Drew. He's calling for this woman that he's known for a couple months and is now married to. I thought, well, what does that say about Neil? What does that say about Neil? He clearly has put this relationship above the other relationships in his life, and maybe that's appropriate. Maybe that's what you're supposed to do with your spouse. I'm sure there's an argument to be made for that, but I thought that was an interesting choice. So Hillary goes into Neil's hospital room, and he is understanding that she's there. He can hear her voice, but there's this look in his eyes and on his face, and he just says to her, I can't see. I can't see. Neil's blind. Neil is blind. And I was shocked. I was really shocked. I don't know why. I didn't expect that. I thought, oh, well, Neil's gonna be in a coma for a couple months, or he's gonna have a recovery period. I just wasn't expecting blindness. I don't know why, because gosh, why in our loves to blind people? Because we had Adam and Connor, and this isn't the first blind person. We've had some blind characters, but this, I mean, you know, it's going to be temporary. It's only temporary, but in the meantime, while Neil is recovering, he's going to be completely dependent on Hillary. I mean, he's gonna need her for everything, and it makes it impossible for her to abandon him right now. And I did enjoy that very first scene where she's coming to that realization, and particularly where Neil was coming to the realization that he's lost his sight. I thought Christophe St. John was really, really good in that scene. It was hard looking at Neil's face, especially, oh gosh, I guess it was the end of maybe Thursday or Friday's show. They just did this close-up of him lying in the bed, depressed, realizing what's happened to him, and it was very effective to me. I felt so bad for Neil. He is really, he's such a tool in this whole situation. He's been done wrong by Devon and Hillary, I think, and now to have life throw this at him when he was, I mean, it was dumb to go sticking a fork in that, in the fuse box, proverbially, but he was trying to do something nice for his new wife, and I feel bad for him, and I feel bad for her, you know, to an extent. It was a really good scene, and after it's over, Hillary walks out into the hallway where Devon is waiting, and there is a part of me that thinks Devon, I know he's concerned about his dad. I don't mean to make it sound as if Devon doesn't care or that he's heartless in any way, but there is a part of Devon where I think he just wants to get on with his goal. He wants to get what he wants. He wants to accomplish. And although he's worried about his father, I think he sees this as just one more roadblock. Did you guys get that sense from it? She walks out into the hall, and he tries to be there for her, and the way that he does, the way he sort of puts his hand on her arm, assuming that nothing has changed, is, I think, repugnant to her. She immediately smacks him. He's just telling her, you know, everything's going to be okay, puts his hand on her arm, and she smacks him away. And I thought, wow, it changed for her. Everything they had talked about changed for her in an instant, and nothing changed for Devon. I thought that was kind of an interesting dynamic. I think from Hillary's perspective, I think she feels incredibly guilty, especially knowing what Neil was doing when he got hurt, that he was trying to do something for her. I think she feels guilty knowing what she was doing at the time. I think she is confused. I think she has no real idea of what she wants or what she's doing. I think Hillary is going to see now that she has to become Neil's caretaker, and I think that she's going to accept that as maybe a penance for her sins, both in the past and what she was planning to do with Devon. So I think she is now just accepting that I'm gonna have to take care of Neil. It may be forever. He may be blind forever. I've committed to this life with Neil, and now there's no way out of it. I'm his wife. I have to be here to support him. And I think, I mean, yeah, Hillary, you made your decision. You made it weeks ago. You shouldn't have let it get as far as it did with Devon. At this point, I mean, I don't know that there is any turning around, emotionally anyway. I don't know that there is any going back. I don't understand why it changed for her and not for Devon. I'm not understanding him right now. I feel that his guilt should be stronger in a way than hers. I mean, Neil took Devon in as a teenage runaway. He opened his home and his heart and his family to Devon. Neil and Drew gave Devon life, the life that he has today. And so it's just strange to me. I guess I shouldn't say that that Devon was completely without guilt, because there is a follow-up scene where Neil calls Devon into the hospital room, only wants to talk to Devon all on his own, and as if this wasn't completely predictable, Neil wants to tell Devon that he needs to look after Hillary. She's not as strong as you might think. Neil needs to just look after her, and it was so predictable. But the scene was very powerful, because here Devon is mortified. I think maybe it didn't sink, maybe the guilt didn't sink in with Devon until that very moment, because the dynamic of Neil sort of speaking out into the darkness. Neil can't see, and he doesn't really know what's happened to him. He doesn't really know how long this is going to be. He doesn't want Hillary feeling guilty, doesn't want this to put undue stress on his new marriage, so he's reaching out in the darkness to his son, to the one person who has really supported him, went to their wedding. I mean, this is from Neil's perspective. Neil sees Devon as having been completely supportive, and he's now reaching out from this darkness to his son, and Devon's just sitting there feeling he had to have been mortified. I mean, I think, thank goodness that Neil couldn't actually see the expression on Devon's face, because it was mortifying. It struck me in that moment how I think it was a good plot twist, and I didn't really see it coming. I didn't expect Neil to be blind physically, and I find it an ironic twist that now Neil is physically blind when we've seen him being emotionally blind for months. Jack is just getting ready to leave the Abbott mansion. He is on his way to fly to Georgia to tell Phyllis in person that although he didn't expect this, he has fallen madly in love with another woman, and he is accepting that she's never going to come out of a coma, which, side note, if everybody thinks she's not going to come out of the coma, why are they keeping her there? But back on track. Jack is going to tell her that he is moving on with another woman, and Kelly is at the mansion seeing him off. I hesitate to mention this, but I just can't help myself. I don't know how Jack can be so madly in love with someone with such atrocious fashion sense. I'm not that, gifted with fashion. I mean, look at me. But I know bad when I see it. Kelly looks so bad. Why do they do this? The dress that she was wearing was horrible. Horrible. It had these like almost shoulder paddy sleeves. It had like a deep breasty neckline that she had like a push-up bra and it had like a weird cut, and it was very severe. Like the silhouette was very severe, and then her hair is really flat, and it doesn't work. And it's not only that it doesn't work on her. And I wonder if like Y&R is trying to make Kelly look like somebody who could rival Phyllis, because it's almost like the severe kind of dress that Phyllis would have worn, but she's no Phyllis, and I don't know how I'm supposed to buy. I'm getting conflicting. It's hard. I'm having a hard time warming up to Kelly, and I think part of it is because I'm getting conflicting ideas about who she is. Like the dress says, I am I'm a rich woman of means. I've been around a while and I've lived this lifestyle for a while. But I thought that the character of Kelly was somebody who kind of came up from nothing. She's been beaten around. She doesn't strike me as somebody who ever had any money or even that much confidence, really. So it's just, I don't get it. I don't get her. I think Y&R has started to style Kelly to look like she's supposed to match Jack, and it hasn't helped me warm up to her. I know that's such a tangent, and I don't even know why I mentioned it, but I never cease to be shocked at how bad they're styling her. It's really getting in the way of my relationship building with Kelly. But not Jack's. He's firmly on the Kelly train. He decides to, go off to the hospital. He gets there and he is sitting by Phyllis's bedside and he wants to say a proper goodbye. He doesn't treat her like she's in a coma. He treats her like she's Phyllis, and he has a conversation with her, saying everything he needs to say. And I think Jack found it much, much harder than he thought it was going to be. I think there was a part of Jack that said, I'm just going to go. I'm going to do this. I've got the nerve and I'm going to move on. And when he's actually there sitting by Phyllis's bedside, I think he realizes how much he does love her and how much he probably would prefer to be with her, or would have, of course, preferred if life would have turned out differently for them, and all of that. So Jack is at her bedside holding her hand just as we finally, after weeks and weeks of just seeing the hand, the camera pans up to the face of the new Phyllis. The role of Phyllis is now being played by, I totally mispronounced her name when I've said it in the past. It was Gina. She must be Italian. It sounded like an Italian name. Tognoni? I know I got it wrong, but I tell you, I like her already. I do. I like her already. I'm really excited to see what the dynamic between she and Jack will be. Jack is looking, her eyes are still closed, but Jack's looking at her and he's saying a very heartfelt, tearful goodbye with the Y&R theme playing over the scene, and he leaves thinking that he's, he even actually connected with the doctor one more time and said, is there any chance she's going to come out of this? Oh, and by the way, Victor's creeping around in the background. Victor was at the hospital too, just checking in on his project of bringing Phyllis out of the coma. The doctors at the local hospital kind of know what Victor's up to, know that Phyllis is the candidate for this new experimental trial, but they're not really saying anything to Jack. So Jack has no idea that Victor's up to this. Jack leaves the hospital thinking that he's going back to Genoa City, going back to start a new life with Kelly. And of course, it's like just as he's leaving, we're seeing Phyllis's hands twitching. She hasn't even started the experimental treatments, and she's already coming to. I think maybe her eyes were even twitching a little bit. I'm sure that they're going to open up next week or maybe the week after. I mean, we've got to see those eyes pop open sooner or later. And I'm so excited about it. It's weird that I totally buy this actress as Phyllis already. I think it's a good sign that I feel this way, even though she hasn't spoken a word. Nick is trying really hard to find out who Mariah's mom is, and he's trying to pry Mariah a little bit for more information. Mariah reveals that her mother, the last thing she knew was that her mother was a pediatric nurse. So Nick makes some phone calls, tries to find her, and he calls like some facility in Kentucky where she maybe last worked. They don't have any record of Helen Copeland being a current nurse, so if she was a pediatric nurse, she isn't anymore. And Nick is hitting a dead end, but he happens to ask the facility to, if they can contact her in any way, please have her call him. Obviously, Nick knows that Mariah is becoming more and more important to Sharon. Mariah is becoming more and more of an important part of their lives. She's more and more become sort of invasive in their life. She's living in their house. She's found her way into the bank account. Nick doesn't trust her. Nick doesn't think that if Nick thinks that if Mariah and or her mother are connected to Ian Ward in any way, then they're bad news, and he needs to research this kind of behind Sharon's back, because every time Nick tries to bring it up that Mariah might not be who she says she is, or might not be as pure and nice and might not have the intentions that she says she does, Sharon skirts out of it or finds a way to defend Mariah. So Sharon she's really starting to love Mariah, and I think Sharon is enjoying having an older daughter, or this idea of having an older daughter. Sharon's out buying Mariah outfits and really being a mother figure. Now, Sharon does go to visit Cassie's grave this week, and she said, I know you're not here, this just makes me feel better to say it out loud. You would be so proud of Faith. I've got, Mariah in my life now. I think you'd really like her. I think you guys would really get along. And the tone of Sharon's message to Cassie was that she misses her, obviously, but she feels that she's rebuilding the family and that she now considers Mariah to be a part of the family. Meanwhile, Mariah is totally wanting to steal her husband. Mariah wants Nick. It's so shocking. It is so shocking. Sharon comes home after this graveside chat, and she's sitting on the couch just with a carton of ice cream that she's eating out of directly with a spoon. And Mariah sits down and joins her, and they're chatting, and I just keep thinking, there's no way Sharon eats ice cream right out of the carton. It was cute, and I think her and Nick were eating ice cream a couple weeks ago, but I'm like, how can she eat ice cream and then walk around town in those short shorts? I really liked Sharon's outfit this week. She was just wearing, I think it was just kind of a cute button-up, a sensible necklace. and short shorts. It was kind of almost like 90s retro. You don't really see those shorts as much anymore, but she really pulled it off. She looked great. I mean, her legs are like, wow, and I can't imagine that they get that way by her just eating ice cream on the couch, but it was cute. Mariah sits down, joins her, and they start chatting and bonding. Now Nick is still at the club when Mariah's mother shows up. It was almost like by making that phone call, Nick summoned her. Like he did a dark spell and summoned Mariah's mother. And she comes in and she says, I hear you were looking for me, so what do you want? I really liked it. I really liked the actress so far. I think I tend to prefer offbeat actors and actresses. She's not your typical blonde. She seems just a little more unique, maybe got a little more something going on behind the eyes. So I connected with her right away. I like her delivery. I like that she's got some secrets and some darkness, and Nick tries to pry her and ask her all kinds of questions. Why did you abandon Mariah? Why are you the type of mother that you were? And it's obviously adversarial. Nick is accusatory. He didn't really handle it with kid gloves. He was kind of brutal with her, I suppose. So the woman didn't seem to want to give up very much, but she did say, Helen, I gotta just start calling her Helen. She did say, in regard to Mariah's upbringing, birth, and connection with Ian Ward, she said, I tried to do the best I could by giving her a father figure in Ian Ward. I didn't want her in the first place. She was all Ian's idea. So that's interesting. That's definitely going to play in. Let's keep that in our minds. Things get heated between she and Nick, and she leaves, and Nick follows her, wants to know where she's going, but I think probably knew exactly where the heck she was going. Now, Sharon and Mariah are at home while all of this is going on. Again, kind of bonding. Faith ends up getting sent home from a party because she's at, because the girls are talking about how she's a love child. Because I guess because her parents aren't married, and so the conversation drifts to why Nick and Sharon aren't married right now. Sharon's got the wedding album out on the coffee table, and Mariah is taking all of this in and asking Sharon questions about the marriage, assuming that it's Nick that doesn't want to marry her, but it's really Sharon who's put the brakes on, and Sharon reveals that she's like this close from actually saying that she wants to marry Nick. She's feeling so confident and comfortable in this relationship, and also comfortable and confident in the new family that she's creating. She wants to maybe bond that, make it official. And as soon as Sharon reveals that and then steps out of the room, Mariah rushes out. She goes to the club looking for Nick, and Nick is not there, but Mariah flashes to this fantasy. This just tickles me. I don't know why. She flashes to this fantasy where Nick comes out of a room in the underground, and Mariah says, you can't marry Sharon. Even if she says yes, you can't marry her. And Nick says, I know, I can't, because I really want to be with you. And then they move in for the kiss, and Y&R like gets you this close to seeing a kiss between Nick and a girl who looks exactly like a girl that we thought was his daughter, or who was for all intents and purposes his daughter, and then Y&R cuts away. Was that genius or what? It's like, they know Y&R's not going to pursue this. I mean, Nick and Mariah are not going to fall madly in love and ride off into the sunset, people. Y&R's doing this to get a reaction out of you, and it's working. I really like it. It was almost like a gross out moment where like Nick and Mariah getting real close playing chicken, and then they cut away, and it's not at all, please don't misunderstand, it's not like I want to see a relationship between these two. I think it's clever. I think it's clever how Y&R brought Cameron Grimes back onto the show as this different character, and it just takes it to a step that I was not expecting by having her have a crush on Nick. And as a viewer, I just want things that I don't expect. I like the surprise. I've been watching soaps for 20 years. I'm watching this show for 20 years. I like it when they throw me a little bit of a curveball. It's kind of like how, I don't know if anybody's a foodie, like you sort of develop tastes for things, like something like coffee or something. First time you taste coffee, you're like, yuck, and then later on down the line, you're more immune to it. Like I'm immune to a lot of these storylines that end up getting recycled, and this is something, it's new to me, and so I enjoyed it. It was a gross out chicken moment. So you'll have to let me know what you guys thought about that. I know nobody else probably feels that way, but I don't know. I like the excitement. So Nick follows Helen to the park, where of course she's meeting with Ian. I'm sure that Nick knew that all along. And he overhears them talking and actually grabs his phone and presses record on it during this conversation. And Ian seems to not really want Helen to be in town. I'm not sure if it's because he doesn't respect her, like her. I don't know if maybe Ian really does care about Mariah and sees Helen is a bad influence and wants to protect Mariah, or I don't know if it's that Ian wants more to protect his plan and what he has going on right now and doesn't want Helen coming in and throwing in any wrenches, giving away any information. But it was very adversarial. He didn't really want to give her the time of day, but she wanted to let Ian know that Nick had summoned her, and Ian says, well, how much did you tell him? And she said, no, I didn't tell Nick anything. He has no idea who Mariah really is. Who she really is, huh? Perhaps Sharon's long-lost daughter? Perhaps something that can bond Nick and Sharon together even after Phyllis wakes up and reveals Sharon's big secret once and for all? After Nikki crashes Paul and Christine's honeymoon cabin getaway, they're stuck babysitting her. It's humiliating, right? It must be for her. And it's also hard to watch if you're a Christine fan, which I think I am. I feel like I was watching that scene through Christine's eyes, and I felt really annoyed with Nikki. I mean, Nikki finished the damn puzzle that Paul and Christine started together. And I know Nikki didn't know. She had no idea that it was even supposed to be a honeymoon for them. But I just think Nikki is needing to find someone else to lean on, and Chris did not make any bones about the fact that they were on their honeymoon and Nikki isn't wanted. And I don't blame her. I don't blame her. I can't help putting myself in Christine's shoes. Christine tried to find a rude but within reasonably rude way of getting Nikki out the door, but Nikki, the withering flower, almost faints just as she's leaving. And Chris, you know, they unfortunately have to bring her back in and spend some more time with her. And Christine insists that let's just call Dylan. Let's just call somebody to come pick her ass up. I can see where Christine would be annoyed with her. Why is Nikki the wilting, withering flower? I never really saw her like that before until now, and it's becoming almost unbearable. I like my Nikki stronger than this. I don't need her to be a brick wall, but stronger than this. Victor comes home, who should probably be the one looking after her anyway, maybe not going off on business trips, but he comes home and he finds out that this whole tabloid thing has happened. And I really loved, I think the opening scene, the first new scene, actually no, what am I talking about? He was saying that he was on a business trip. He was actually with Phyllis or you know, working on that project. But as soon as he gets back, he's in his office and he's on the phone with like the editor of the gossip rag that published this, the Inquisitor. And I don't know, there are just sometimes brief moments where I pull myself out of the scene and realize that it's not real and it's not acting, because for the most part, that is acting. For the most part, I watch Y&R and completely suspend my disbelief. I'm in it. Eric Braeden is Victor Newman, and there's nothing else. But there's this moment where Victor's on the phone ripping this editor at the Inquisitor a new one. I mean, really going to town, like, you mess with me and you know what you're gonna get, and you mess with her and you're gonna get me, and he was really just going to town. And there was just this moment where I thought, there's nobody on the other end of the line. Like, Eric Braeden comes in to a fake office and sits down on the desk and is ripping a new one to no one on the other end of the line. And it was believable, don't get me wrong, but it was just funny at how vicious he's being to this imaginary person. Like, it's one thing to have a scene with someone else and to rip them a new one, but to be on the phone just being forceful for fake. There was something about that just tickled me, and I thought, I gotta mention that. It was good though. He tells them, a retraction isn't good enough, but Nikki comes in the middle of him yelling on the phone and says, please, please stop, you're just gonna make it worse, because of course he does, he always seems to. And they sort of settle into a conversation, and Victor's being very relaxed. He's in his office, he pours himself a glass of scotch, and she just watches him longingly as he pours the scotch into a glass, and he kind of swirls it around and gives it a sniff before getting ready to bring it to his lips. And Nikki is like drooling over there in the corner, like all of the little moments of enjoying the alcohol, as that's what she's wanting, she's craving, she's looking so hard for some kind of answer. Nikki is, gosh, she's humiliated. I get that. She feels guilty about everything that happened with Dylan and Paul. I get that too. But everything that's happened with Nikki doesn't have to be a trigger. It doesn't have to be this. She doesn't have to be the wilting flower. She doesn't have to fall off the wagon. It can be an opportunity. Why doesn't Nikki see everything that's happened as an opportunity to bond with Paul, to bond with their son, and to unite the full family? I guess I always see Nikki as the woman who's supposed to be the heart of the family. She's supposed to be the central figure. And now it just seems like every ounce of her inner strength is just gone. Austin has arranged a very romantic Christmas in August for Summer. He has sold his camera to buy her a Christmas present, proper wedding ring, and it was very sweet. And I'm like, ugh, how am I supposed to hate the man who bought a gun to kill Avery when he's being so sweet and kind and buying Summer a nice ring? And then it was revealed that there's a gift of the Magi twist. She buys him a special lens for the camera that he sold to buy her the ring. Oh, it was very sad. And then like the next day, a couple days later, Austin arranges a Valentine's Day celebration for her, and that's all very sweet with candy hearts, and he's trying to share with her all of the holiday moments that they're not going to share when he's in jail, because the trial begins tomorrow, and Summer is gonna have to come face to face to this, right? There's gonna be no more running away from this. It's happening. I don't know if I don't think he's gonna end up going to jail. Leslie is trying really hard to put together a defense for him. She asks Avery to write a letter of recommendation, something to try to help him. And Leslie makes the argument, you know what, he made a mistake, but where is it more appropriate for him to pay for his crime? In prison with hardened criminals, and you know, basically a throwing away of his life, or on the outside where he actually could do some good? What are they going to do? Give him community service for shooting somebody? I mean, if you do shoot somebody, like, I don't know how they're going to get out of this. But you know, Avery initially says she doesn't want to write the letter. she doesn't, well, she wants to consider how Dylan would feel about that. Dylan is still harboring, obviously, a lot of anger about that situation, and she doesn't want to go against him, but ultimately, Avery agrees. She understands Leslie's argument. She felt some sympathy for Austin in the first place, so she does agree, and then she has to tell Dylan about it. I hate to see this cause problems in Avery and Dylan's relationship, particularly when Dylan seems to have this increasing isolation and desperation and anger. There was a good scene between Paul and Dylan this week. They had a good conversation. You know, Paul's back in town. He had some time off to not think about all of the madness, but now it's starting to settle in that he has this son, and Paul wants to get to know Dylan. Paul wants to have a relationship with him, and Dylan is still, in a lot of ways, I think, clinging to the family that he has always and will always consider his family. In Dylan's world, where everything has changed more than once, it changed and then changed again and then changed some more, Dylan knows that he still had good parents. He still had a positive childhood, and he is clinging desperately to that. Adam's hands. Still so many shots, so many scenes of Adam's hands. It's Connor's first birthday, and Chelsea is planning a party in the park, and Adam's watching this whole thing through his Adam cam. Chelsea is at the same time kind of thinking about where she was 1 year ago to get today. And it's hard to believe it's only been a year because it seems so long ago. So much happens in YNR in just a year. But it was 1 year ago that she was married to Dylan and had convinced him that he was Connor's father, and she gave birth in that rickety, dusty, dirty warehouse building, and with Dylan. Dylan delivered Connor, and I did appreciate that Chelsea went to see Dylan, and again apologized for what she did for tricking him into thinking that he was Connor's father, and she even invited him to the birthday party. And I'm sure that wasn't easy for her to extend that olive branch, and I think there was a part of Dylan that wanted to go, but he's just trying so hard to hang on to his sanity right now, and I think he just didn't want to complicate anything else, but it was nice of her to ask. It's essentially, though, Chelsea's kind of moving on, or trying to move on, with Billy. She and Billy are at the park setting up, and it's funny to see them doing things exactly like a couple. Kevin shows up and he's mentioning, you know, you guys are basically a couple right now, and nobody wants to hear any of it, but there's a sense of Billy and Chelsea as the parents of Connor throwing this party, and everyone else shows up too. Well, Jeff is there. He shows up. I thought it was nice to see Jeff. The actor has been gone for a while, and he looks more healthy. I think he was sick for a while, but he looks good. He looks healthy, and I thought it was funny that he wanted to teach Connor how to bet on the ponies. He's kind of passing that personality on there. I thought it was cute. There was a lot of other people there. Like, did you notice that it was the main characters in the foreground, but there were some background characters with party hats on in the background? I'm like, who are these people? Who the hell are these people? I mean, are they like Connor's daycare friends? Chelsea doesn't have any other friends. It was apparently a pretty big bash in the park, but I didn't know who they were. So, as the highlight of the party, a clown shows up. And I was immediately thinking, like, is that Adam? I mean, you could tell, like, Chelsea and Billy bring Connor up to the clown to see the clown. And I'm like, there's something up with this. Is that Adam? Did Adam just put on a wig and face paint and go to see his son? And the really awkward thing was that as Billy and Chelsea are, like, showing Connor the clown, Connor says out loud, "Dada," to Billy. Ooh, was really, really awkward. Chelsea tries to play it off. Oh, he calls everything Dada. He doesn't think you're his Dada. No, but the damage is done. Sure enough, we go back to Adam, wherever in the heck it is that he is. I guess in the hospital? I'm not sure. But he's sitting there watching Clown Cam and watching that moment of Connor saying Dada on repeat. And obviously Adam is like too weak to go do this himself, so I'm assuming he sent this orderly guy. I feel like Adam's in a hospital, and that guy must be the orderly, because he said something about Adam being weak and his health. So I don't know. I guess Adam sent this guy to dress up like a clown and take this video. Like, what is this guy getting paid? How much would they have to pay? How much would Adam have to pay you to go dress up like a clown and take secret video of a kid's birthday party? It's kind of sick and weird. You guys, I think that the rest of Stitch's secret is that he's really a pirate. Or maybe he used to be a pirate, because as I saw him this week, for some reason it occurred to me, like, can't you just see Stitch with a scarf on his head and like wearing maybe a leather vest and carrying a sword, maybe an eye patch even? Stitch just gives me pirate vibe. Like, perhaps he sailed the 7 seas for a number of years after medical school and the army and killing his father and all that stuff. I'm telling you, pirate. He's got that on his resume. Maybe he could go back to being a pirate now that now that his medical career is over. So Stitch did have the board meeting at the hospital this week, and he of course runs into Victoria while she's there. She spends a lot of time at the hospital, but she's there for a checkup, and Stitch has to reveal that he lost his residency at the hospital, and he's possibly going to lose his medical license as well, so his life is pretty much gone to crap. And Victoria is really struggling to know who to trust. I think she still cares about Stitch and Billy very much, but doesn't know what extent she should be letting them in her life. I think she's really just kind of focusing on herself, focusing on the baby. She went back to work at Newman Enterprises, which I don't know if that's the world's greatest idea, but I think she just wants to get through this last trimester and have the baby and focus on that and figure out her feelings later. It's hard to believe she's already in the final trimester. It seems like all this whole pregnancy has happened so quickly. She is now having to try to make arrangements and figure out who she wants to have with her during the labor, and she feels like she can't ask either guy, and she doesn't want to ask either one or the other, and she certainly isn't going to ask both of the guys to be there and cause all of this negativity. She certainly can't ask her mother, the wilting lily. So she, I guess, does the only thing she can do. She asks Abby to be there with her, which I think is good, because Abby is someone you can just yell at and then not feel bad about it the next day. The mob goons are back, and this time the one main guy who I really like, the main mob guy, breaks into the Chancellor Mansion, and he's like standing there pointing a gun at Colin as soon as he and Jill get back from a little vacation. And yeah, wow, they're not happy. The mob is not happy that they got a fake necklace, so the little plan that Colin and Jill came up with is not quite as foolproof as they thought. I thought that Jill had this necklace masterfully built, like to where not even a jeweler could figure out that it was a fake. But somehow the mob guys figured out that it was a fake, and so this time the main guy, shoot, I'm really bad at remembering names of the minor characters that come in and out. I like that guy. He's got a good voice. He's good and strong. If we're gonna reform somebody, reform that guy. Let's bring him into Genoa City. So I'm just gonna call him Mob Guy. Sorry about that, but so this time Mob Guy is threatening Colin and threatening Jill for the first time, saying, if you don't give us the money. We're going to, you know, we're going to focus on Jill. And in fact, he says that Jill is going to help them somehow, or he wants the way that Colin's going to repay this debt is somehow through Jill. And I think it's probably going to be that Colin's gonna have to steal money from Fenmore's in order to pay off the mob, which it's annoying. I mean, Michael and Lauren are like trying to get their life on track. So is Jill, but Michael and Lauren specifically, they're trying to find sexy time. They had some sexy time this week, which I enjoyed. It was much needed after all of the drama in their lives. And I just think that they deserve a little bit of happiness. And Michael never really went back to work after losing his job as the DA after the whole Carmine murder debacle. So I hope that whatever Colin has in store, stealing money from Fenmore's, I hope it doesn't make Michael and Lauren broke and Jill more broke. But I kind of wonder if that's what's going to happen. I wonder if they're going to lose Fenmore's or lose a lot of money. One or the other. So, more importantly, when Jill gets home from her little vacation with Colin, there's a letter sitting on the coffee table, and it has Catherine's handwriting on it. And Jill opens it up. It's a letter from Catherine. I think it's been saved by, I don't know, Esther or somebody, but it's a letter that Catherine wrote to Jill to be opened on the year anniversary of her death. So Catherine had that foresight. Catherine is, I mean, I don't know how many years in advance she did this, but the scene we didn't see was the one where Catherine sits down and specifically writes a letter to be opened on the 1-year anniversary of her death. Like, is that completely far-fetched, or is that exactly Catherine? I can't decide. But it was, you know, a reflective letter. It was a letter that touched on the rivalry between Jill and Catherine, and you know, I did appreciate the line that Wynard threw in there about, you know, I've been gone a year, so I'm sure I've had time to make friends with the man upstairs, or with the big guy, and if you're not careful, I'm gonna have him tell me where he stores the lightning bolts. And I love that. You guys know that was one of my favorite key moments of Catherine, was her bullying of God, where, you know, where she's a personality big enough to believe that she could influence the hand of God. And I liked that Wynard dropped that little gem into the letter. But what I really liked was that Catherine decided she wants a party in this letter. She wants a party. And tells Jill she has to arrange a special family party to celebrate her year of being gone from this earth. I think that's a great idea. I like it, and I'm gonna steal it. And I've decided that next week I'm gonna sit down and I'm gonna write a series of 100 letters which are to be passed to my descendants on the anniversary of my death every year, with various party themes I would like them to enact. Just as Jill is getting this letter from Catherine, Kevin gets a letter from Chloe. Well, divorce papers. Does that count? It was really sad because Kevin gets an envelope. Esther gives him an envelope, says it's from Chloe, and Kevin's so excited. Oh my gosh, what could it be? Could it be a love letter in a giant legal-sized manila envelope? No, dummy. It's divorce papers, obviously. Like, what do you think, she's coloring you pictures? Like, she's there drawing you pictures, like the Cassie picture, and it's like it's a stick figure drawing of Kevin, and she writes Kevin in crayon above it, and then Chloe and her stick figure, and then like my family above the whole thing, and then she puts it in a manila envelope and Federal Expresses it over to Kevin so he can have some kind of clinging of hope. No, it's divorce papers. She's done with you. I'm sorry, Kevin. I'm sorry that it turned out this way, but you're gonna have to accept it. You're gonna have to move on. And it's probably not healthy to direct all of your anger on Detective Harding. I mean, Harding is being a hard ass. It's really good naming of the character, because he's riding Kevin about, you know, work that needs to get done, and then Harding finds out about like the divorce, or he senses that Kevin's got, you know, having a weak moment, and he makes some comment about Chloe and, you know, being married to this crazy woman, and Kevin flips out. I mean, they almost have a full-on knockdown drag out right there in the police station. Michael has to hold Kevin back, and Harding is just waiting. I think Harding is baiting Kevin intentionally to try to get him to make a move so that he can throw him in jail, because he wasn't successful last time. Harding is not making any friends around the police station. It was an interesting series of scenes this week where Harding and Courtney have something going on, some kind of more to the story. We saw a couple of weeks ago Harding makes some kind of comment to Courtney about the way she became a police officer, and it's kind of clear that he doesn't think very much of her. He said something to her about, like, you know, you're gonna have to testify on the stand at this Austin Travers trial. You know, I don't want you to get all emotional considering you're a woman and your best friend's married to him. And it was very, you know, you got the sense that he's kind of sexist. And Noah comes in and sees that Harding's kind of picking on her a little bit, or perceives it that way, and Noah jumps on him. And then later Noah and Courtney go to the underground, and Harding's there alone, and he's kind of looking at him, and Noah thinks that Harding is being hard on Courtney because he's attracted to her. So Courtney walks up to Harding and says, look, you know, I'm happy with Noah. And just as she's starting to try to put that vibe out there, like, I'm not interested in you, his date walks up, and she is, you know, oh, great, you know, I just made things worse for myself. And Harding starts to go on about how this woman that he's dating was a former model or whatever. So Harding is someone who is putting that beauty above anything else. I mean, he didn't go on and on about her wit or her intelligence. He's proud of the fact that he's dating a beautiful woman. And what does this tell us about his character? He's proud of the fact that he's dating this beautiful woman. He is a conservative police officer. He's got, you know, this sense of, I don't know, moral or something, where he's real protective of Paul and his chief, and honor, and he's very, I get the sense from Harding, particularly after this week, that he's conservative, that everything in his world is black or white, and he does kind of have a very cop-like mentality, or I do get the vibe that he is actually a cop, and oddly, from everything that he's done this week that should make me not like him, I actually like Harding this week. And not because I think he's some great guy, I just think there's nobody else like him in Genoa City. I think he's representing a type of personality, and nobody else is like that. So I thought, what is this, and where are we going with this, and what exactly is the deal between Courtney and Harding? I mean, I understand the sort of the dynamic between Harding and Kevin. I don't understand Harding and Courtney. Is there a backstory there? Do they have a previous relationship? Is there something more that we have to learn, or is it just on the surface something to introduce us to these characters? I don't know. I do like it. I like Courtney too, and I've said this in the past. I think she's very interesting. I like the way she delivers her lines. I like her with Noah. I'd like to see more of them. I want more Courtney. In fact, I said it a couple of weeks ago. I wish they would have cast this actress as Abby. I think she would have made a great Abby, and in fact, I would be happy if the current Abby would just sail off into the sunset and we could just plop Courtney right down in her place. Like, can we ask Courtney to be there with Victoria during her labor instead of Abby? Okay, how about some comments? It's comment time. These are just a couple of comments that I found around websites, Facebook, Twitter. Your guys' comments for me this past week. Here are just a few that I thought I would mention. Anna called in and left a voicemail, and she says that she loves Dylan. I kind of talked a little bit last week about him throwing that fit, and that I found it to be very immature. And I guess I still do, but Anna made the point, you know, he's Italian, he has a bad temper. I think that's what she said, that Italians have a bad temper. Or did you say Irish? Shoot, I can't remember. Yeah, you know, I guess that's the thing. I just don't have a bad temper, but I know some people do. And Anna says, you know, I think that it's Dylan trashing the coffee house is a better alternative than beating up Ian Ward. And that is very true. And Anna also said, I just want to kiss Dylan and make him all better. So I think maybe you're a little biased. Just a little. Connor called into my voicemail and said something I didn't even notice. He said, where was Anita at Connor's birthday party? I don't even know how I didn't notice. Connor says, Jeff was there, and why wasn't Anita there? She's always babysitting, so why couldn't she be there for the party? I don't know. It's a good question, especially when I feel more warmed up to Anita than I ever did in the past. She could have added some spice there, especially since some of the essence of the party was about Billy and Chelsea's relationship, which we all know Anita is a really big proponent of. The other thing that Connor mentioned in his voicemail was that finally Adam moved this week. We usually just see the hand at the computer, and this week it seemed he actually got up out of the chair. No face, but he actually did move a little more. I read an article, I don't even know where the heck I saw it. I guess it was on CBS Soaps in Depth, because that's usually the only thing I check. But it said that apparently Michael Mooney announced that he's not returning to Y&R. So Michael Mooney implied that he was in talks with Y&R to return. Now, Y&R denies this, but they never comment on casting or contracts or anything like that. So I don't see why Mooney would lie about that, and I think it's very consistent with Y&R to not comment on something like that. But basically Mooney said, we got close, but it doesn't look like I'm going to be returning as Adam. And I guess I thought that was kind of interesting that they were close, and if they were close, what caused it to stop? I mean, what was it? If Mooney came back to Y&R, then they're not going to bring him back if he was a sexual harasser. They wouldn't even have considered it. So what exactly was it that got in the way of him returning? I don't know. This is just going to be a mystery that we're never going to know the answer to. But the thing that I now kind of realize in retrospect is I bet that they've been hanging on the character of Adam because they've been wondering if they could get him back. This is what I think happened. This is just my theory, but I think that they tried to recast Adam right off the bat, couldn't really find anyone appropriate, plus the amount of hubbub and craziness around the whole firing was just so much. I think they probably didn't even want to touch it unless it was right. So I kind of think that Y&R kept this whole Adam's hand thing and the Adam storyline, making sure he was still sort of around, still a presence in Genoa City, while they either recasted or worked things out with Mooney. And now it doesn't look like they're going to. So that's a bummer. If they were close, then why don't they just do it? You know what? I tell you, I'm very impressed so far with the recast of Phyllis, and I would have thought that she would have been a tough one to recast, but so far I'm buying it. So hey, if they want to recast Adam and can do it right, I'm open to it. Let's just do it. But at the same time, if you can bring Michael Mooney back, I still would like to see him on screen. I can't speak to who he is as a person or what he's done, obviously, but I would like to see him on screen. And I still think never say never, because I seem to remember when Michelle Stafford left Y&R, she said she was never going back to daytime, and now look where she is. So never say never. Gary called into my voicemail this week and said, I would rather watch Victoria go through 9 pregnancies than watch Neil go blind. Ho hum. I think the only reason I'm for it is because I just wasn't expecting it. I guess it's some, me going on and on about haven't watched Y&R for 20 years. I want the unexpected. And I don't know why, but I didn't expect this. But you're right, Gary, because it's going to get old quick. I mean, it's only going to be novel for week 1, and then if they continue, I'm just imagining, I can see the scenes of Neil hobbling around with a cane or something, or a walking stick. I mean, we're going to have to go through his whole recovery process, and it is going to be hard to watch. I was shocked and delighted, I suppose, this week, but you flash forward 1 or 2 weeks, and I'm sure you're going to hear me complaining. Joyce Ann Robinson on Facebook responded to a poll that I had posted up there saying, what do you think of Mariah's crush on Nick? And Joyce says, I don't think Nick should fall for someone that looks so much like Cassie. It's sick. I agree. I do agree. I don't think so. I don't think Nick will. I think it's going to be a crush intended to entice or cause discussion amongst the viewers, but I don't think that Nick would ever fall for, there's no way. If Nick did fall for her, believe me, I would be talking out against it because I agree it would be sick and weird. Okay, I'm saving the best for last because Bobby Thompson left a message on Facebook and says, hi, Allie. Mariah's mom is a pediatric nurse, guaranteed. Sharon had twins, and she gave one to Sharon and took one for herself. Mariah is Sharon's kid for sure. When she finds out her birthday, that will be the clincher. Oh yeah, I bet I'm right. Oh yeah, I bet you are right. And then Bobby follows up and says, I should say, they gave Cassie to the woman who raised her for the first few years, which was Millie, and Mariah went to Helen Copeland. Yep. So there you go. There's the mystery. I mean, let's look back at what was it that let me look here, that Helen Copeland said. She said, first of all, I didn't want Mariah in the first place. This is what Helen tells Nick. I didn't want Mariah in the first place. It was all Ian's idea. So I don't think I take that as Helen Copeland is not Mariah's biological mother. Somehow, some way, Ian Ward was involved. I have no idea what he would have had to gain from this, but it also plays into why he was going to visit Sharon a couple weeks ago and gave her flowers. But for some reason, Ian talked this pediatric nurse into splitting Sharon's twins at birth. I don't remember why Cassie went to Millie, but apparently, Helen Copeland didn't want Mariah, but took her at Ian's insistence. And then again in the park, Helen Copeland tells Nick, Helen Copeland tells Ian Ward, Nick has no idea who Mariah really is. Oh, it's a little confusing, but yeah, that's exactly it. All right, hope you guys enjoyed this week's Y&R and this week's Y&R chat. Please leave me some comments. I love to hear from you, and if you leave me some comments, I may very well read them in next week's video. So please don't be shy. I love you guys, and I'll be back next week. I'll see you then. Bye.